Thank you, Lisa. Thank you, everyone. My name is Christine Tim, Director of Partnerships at the Stellar Development Foundation. And today I will be moderating today's panel, Global Entry, B2B Cross-Border Payments with Stellar. And today we have our guests from all over the world. We're starting off with Meinhard Ben, the CEO of Satoshi Pay, based in Germany. We also have Jean Desnegay, the CEO of Stable Corp, based in Canada. And I think we were having some difficult technical difficulties, but Bayo, the CEO of Cowrie Systems, based out of Nigeria, may be here or maybe not. So today, one of the things that excites me about today's panel is that each participant is running a B2B cross-border payments business from a different part of the world. And the end result is that you guys are serving your customers on Stellar. So I'd love to kick this off, one, by providing our audience a quick introduction of your background, and also what products and services are you offering to your customers to serve them today? To kick it off, Meinhard, would you start?
Sure. Yeah, first of all, happy to be here. Again, second Meridian. It's a great honor to be on a panel again, this time with a slightly changed business model or a new product. So just as an introduction, many people know, but I started Satoshi Pay in 2014, and we started on the Bitcoin network, and then Bitcoin became too expensive for us, with fees up to 50 euros or $50 per transaction at that time. And 2017, we, as one of the first businesses, the Stellar ecosystem, we embraced the Stellar Ledger to work on it with our projects. Simply because it had everything we needed already in production, so we could focus on implementing our customers and finding new customers, and not building the technical base, because it was essentially all there. Faster, cheaper transactions, scalability built in, multi-sig support, and things like time bounds and an exchange at protocol level. And all this without smart contracts, because also at that time, around 2017, there have been some of the great smart contract hacks where 150 million got lost, and that kind of made us very cautious about which ledger to choose and how certain features that we need are implemented. And we like the protocol approach, or the near core protocol approach of Stellar very much, and also the developer ecosystem around it, and also, of course, the initial support by the foundation as soon as we reached out to them was quite great. And now we are running 3 products on Stellar. So the first, and that's what we're mostly known for, is our micropayment for content, sort of the Satoshi Pay Classic, and which Tim Berners-Lee famously in the keynote called very interesting. So that was a great honor to hear that from the inventor of the World Wide Web. And so this is definitely something that we're going in the right direction there. And we also launched Solar Wallet, which is an open source implementation of the Stellar protocol as a wallet, a consumer wallet on all major platforms. And we focused on easy to use interface, and also great multi-signature support, and also asset exchange in an easy interface. So having the sort of exchange built in. And this year we launched D-Transfer, which is an instant cross-border money transfer for businesses, a service, and it runs as a software as a service. And the focus here is on near instant or instant bank-to-bank transfers. So we completely encapsulate all the blockchain logic and show the user, or the business in this case, how everything can work faster and more efficiently without exposing them to blockchain language necessarily. It's just that we pass on the benefits, and we sort of hide most of the blockchain complexity from the user. And we're already live with transactions to Nigeria, and with Cowrie, obviously, and also to the US, from and to the US. And for example, that's something that shows how powerful this can be. We did a test transfer, and it took about 20 seconds for funds to arrive on a Nigerian bank account, thanks to Cowrie's integration. And that's really something that shows the power, how fast and efficient money transfer can be in the future, or also already in the present. Yeah, so that's kind of a quick introduction on what we're doing. We are based in Berlin as a company, and these days, with many people being remote, we also have some people working remotely. But that's kind of where we're operating from, and London as well, where we have lots of investor contacts, and where we are, our holding is also registered.
Great, that's fantastic. So it sounds like you guys have built an application layer on top of Stellar, leveraging the anchors to help you process these global payments, correct?
So your audio is kind of breaking off a little bit. Can you repeat the question?
So it sounds like you've built an application layer on top of Stellar so that you can process these payments for your customers, correct? That's
correct. Yeah, so we sort of visualize it as a middle layer or a middleware, something that all of our services can use that's connecting to the Stellar blockchain. And on top of that, we built our different business products or different products for different applications. Yeah.
So, Jean, I'd love for you to provide a bit of context on your background and what you guys are offering on Stellar, because you guys are coming into the ecosystem as an anchor, which is, it's a different perspective, but at the same time, you're also able to serve your customers with processing these global B2B payments.
Hi, can you hear me? Yeah. Hello, Christine?
Yes.
Oh, sorry, you cut out for a moment, I apologize. So my name is Jean de Gagny. I'm a reformed or recovering banker, depending on how you look at it. I've spent most of my career as a senior executive in a series of banks, stock exchanges, and CEO of clearinghouses. I retired from that a couple of years ago and have been working on a bunch of projects, including the Canada stablecoin QCAD. I've believed in the last number of years that capital markets and financial markets, as we know them, are going to become completely digitized relative to the analog world that we know now. But I also believe that that will only happen when we replicate the robust financial market infrastructures that exist in analog land, and that is, infrastructures that are robust, that are regulated, that are scalable, that are led by adults, for lack of a better word. And so we've been working hard to create the stablecoin in Canada as a key building block and enabler of what we see as the digital capital markets here to facilitate all sorts of use cases that I'll come back to in a moment. When we launched our stablecoin in the earlier part of this year, to be candid, we built it on ERC20. That was path of least resistance. It was just something everyone understood. We continue to use that, but as everyone knows, it's not fast. Getting slower, it's not expensive, it's expensive, getting more expensive, and it really isn't, as we look forward, the foundation that we think we will need to truly be able to scale this thing. And so we've been talking to Stellar, and they're quite excited to bring our stablecoin onto this platform because it does scale well, because it is fast, because it is inexpensive, and because, as we're seeing today, there's a very strong ecosystem of other players in this space that we can help enable and that can help us grow our business as well. And so to us, that's particularly significant. I think you've heard earlier today other people talk about some of the use cases around stable coins. Pablo just talked about a stablecoin exchange to facilitate this. We look at QCAD as something that will certainly facilitate payments. And as we link on, we're going to be joining with other ecosystem partners like Remitter and others to be able to facilitate payments using Canadian dollars through our stable coin. Canadian dollar being a very stable, reliable currency. We look at foreign exchange as a very powerful use case, both for reasons of just moving money out of countries. And I love Jeremy's story earlier about the brain wallet. What an incredible way to think about moving wealth around. Like the other speaker, I'm not sure I can remember my key, but we'll see. But once you have the ability to move wealth through stablecoins between different currencies, you really facilitate a lot of things, including payments. But you facilitate just the movement of wealth, the preservation of wealth, and you do it without paying. I know in Canada, our Canadian banks make $1 billion or more a year just with the FX spreads between buying and selling dollar Canada and dollars against Brazil and all that kind of stuff. And I think with the types of markets that we're creating, the infrastructure that we have and that Pablo and others are building, you can create a vehicle to trade foreign exchange, whether it's to move payments or wealth, or whether it's just to trade foreign exchange in a way that has much less friction than the traditional financial system has, in a manner that's significantly less expensive than our traditional financial system. So that's a use case that's actually quite exciting for me. And we really believe that the Stellar infrastructure and ecosystem is going to make the creation of those types of businesses much simpler, and will allow us to scale much more quickly than we have been able to date.
So that, what you just said really resonates with me, because, at the foundation every day we come into work and we think about what is it that we can do today that will create equitable access to the global financial system. So the use case that you just mentioned, having your asset be openly tradable for anyone. And Jean, you have a deep background in banking and also capital markets. So can you just shed some light how powerful this application is in terms of just democratizing payments within the global sector, the B2B sector, and also just in general, where people simply didn't have this type of access before? You would have to go to a bank.
The democratization has a couple of sort of angles to it. One of it, because it is so scalable and inexpensive and fast, you can provide a lot of people access to the financial markets that don't have it through traditional means. To open a bank account, you need ID, you need all sorts of things that many people around the world don't have to hand. And here, if you have a cellular phone or you have something like that, a piece of technology that allows you to access the internet, you're actually able to participate in the capital markets in the same manner that someone very wealthy with his private banking account at JP Morgan can do. So from that perspective, it's democratization. From another perspective, one of the reasons that we have many of the financial market infrastructures we have today in analog land is we create all of those for trust. I need to trust someone that you're going to get paid. I need to trust the thing I'm going to pay you with. And so we have stock exchanges and clearinghouses and banks and all these types of things there because we need them to trust. I've been talking to a stock exchange that wants to tokenize all of their stocks, which is, relatively easy to do, to tokenize stock. The kicker is that when I give you my tokenized stock and sell it to you, I kind of want my money, in that same moment. And because that doesn't work in analog land, we've created very expensive clearinghouses. I used to run one. In this kind of world, with the use cases that we're talking about here and the platform and the ecosystem that Stellar has, you're actually able to create all of that without having to build these large organizations with large overheads and therefore large fees. You don't have to have monopoly organizations in every country which are set up for safety and soundness purposes. You actually can create a much simpler way to do all of this. And again, to go back to my opening point, that will only truly happen when these things are built in very robust, regulated, audited, stable kind of ways by adults. But as I look at the people on your Stellar platform and the types of organizations that we're building, we're actually building the foundation of this truly adult digital capital markets for the future, with the added benefit, to your point, that it will be much easier to access by anyone in the world without having to rely on the arbitrary and, should I say, capricious rules that some large institutions currently put in place.
So I like to pivot a bit. Meinhard, I was reading a research report from Research and Markets the other day, and one of the fascinating topics that they were talking about is, of all the companies that they've surveyed in France and also Germany, they said that these companies, about 1/3 of these companies said they are willing and open to paying any of their digital subscriptions or any bills with an e-wallet. So I thought this was fascinating because in the traditional world of enterprises and also companies, they generally pay with a bank or bank transfer wire. So I'd like to, hear from you. Have you seen some of these trends, amongst your own business and some of the demand or appetite from your own customers in terms of wanting these new electronic and digital applications?
So certainly we see an appetite for our product in general, especially the D-transfer product, because everybody sort of complains about banks when it's about international money transfer. Like no one really likes it or likes doing it. So people are hungry for alternatives to that. So it's really a fertile ground for any sort of disruption. And especially also we focus on some part of our sort of payout mechanism is to pay out in digital tokens, meaning in stable coins. So you could receive on a Stellar wallet a bank payment in, let's say, US dollar tokens or in Naira tokens directly without even using the banking system, and therefore sort of bypassing the banking system on the receiving end. And this could be then forwarded by the business to some other suppliers that they have connected to the same network. And I mean, so we sort of are now dealing with small SMEs where, you know, young people are in charge of payments and they are digital natives, and for them it's you know, absolutely expected from consumer apps to pay everything within seconds, and it arrives, and they don't want to go through that hassle and waiting, and they don't understand how a payment can be lost, you know, in the way that, you know, we don't know where your money is. That happens, and then you have to file a research request for your money, and that's something that's just not acceptable for these young entrepreneurs. And that's what we're seeing, that they sort of expect that, and they look for solutions that can offer that, and blockchain-based solutions can do that. Also, from my personal experience, I'm sort of like a blockchain native by now. And I started doing international business when, you know, when I was already firmly within blockchain. And so my default was that, you know, money arrives on the other side of the planet within 10 minutes. And that's what I kind of expected. And then I kind of had to deal with banks, and I was like, just surprised at how slow it is. And I'm like, okay, I want to bring this, what I'm used to since, you know, 2011, to businesses around the world. And that's really also the driving vision here, that's making these advantages available to people around the world. Yeah, John has a question or like a remark.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I mean, one of the, you know, I'm older than you, so I wasn't a digital native. But, you know, one of the challenges that we still have to deal with in this is that there still is a, you know, for people who have wealth in fiat, which many certainly people who are old like me have, the challenge is getting that wealth from fiat land into token land or digital land, and it's an issue that we still haven't cracked in a very efficient way in most developed countries. Part of that is that there's a lot of regulation that gets in the way. But you know, what we're building will truly be fantastic if we can crack that particular little problem at the front end, which is how do you actually, in a very efficient way, get fiat into this ecosystem without undue delays and undue, you know, other sort of processes.
Well, Jean, you're contributing to pushing that solution forward as you know, a cat anchor on Stellar. So we have roughly about 10 minutes left, and we've gotten a handful of good questions. So I'd like to turn over to the audience, and the first question is, Jean, how did you make your anchor model profitable? And what advice would you give to companies who want to become anchors to identify profitable business models today?
So so thank you, Christine. So our business model is not yet profitable. The sources of revenue that we've identified in a stable coin is really just two. One of which is you know, to the extent that you bring in fiat that underpins your stable coin, and our stable coin will be completely backed up by 100% fiat. You know, that's audited and transparent. You can invest that float and earn a return on that. That's largely how Warren Buffett made his money, investing the float in the insurance companies he owned. So to the extent that we bring in Canadian dollars to underpin the QCAD stablecoin, we can invest that and earn proceeds. If interest rates were higher, that would be a more exciting model. Interest rates in our country are certainly extremely low, and so that's not the most profitable model. But as we look to use cases like foreign exchange and payments and other types of things, there's the opportunity also to charge transaction fees, which will be materially smaller than the the huge transaction fees that analog providers like banks and others provide, but those transaction fees will also drive revenue. And the beauty of this business is, and I think Meinhardt's business is probably very similar, this is a fixed cost business. Once you build the machine and have the controls and processes and all these other things in place, every incremental dollar of revenue becomes revenue for us and bottom line profit. And so the key then to scaling, the key to being profitable is scaling. And so being on a platform like this, where there's a lot of ecosystem partners that we can enable and therefore share in some of the fees that get generated, is actually how we grow this. You need a very good product, and then you need an ecosystem that will help you scale quickly, and then it's extremely profitable, because once you've covered your fixed costs, it's a very profitable business.
Great. There's another interesting question, and this is to Meinhardt and Jean, but what are some of the threats within your markets that keep you up at night?
It's always the keeping up at night question, right? Obviously, regulation for us, it's not really a threat, it's a big challenge that we have to deal, especially on the on and off ramp part, dealing with anchors, with very fragmented regulation. Like each country is different, and the technology might be standardized or is standardized through the Stellar network, but sort of the different AML and KYC regulations in these countries are sometimes changing, getting more strict, or getting more open or more detailed. And so kind of a small threat would be that this maybe one country locks it up completely, or asks for too many things that the customer would not be willing to give. So that's a bit of a threat, but that's also a threat that other sort of transfer services have to deal with. But that's really kind of a headache. Another threat or challenge, I would call it more, is market making, also to create liquidity on the Stellar decentralized exchange, to actually handle that volume that we might have. So let's say we have a lot of customers that send maybe millions a month from A to B, but then we also need to match these foreign exchange orders on the exchange, and there needs to be entities that are technically capable, also sort of advanced and pioneering to fulfill these orders on this completely new system that they might not be accustomed to, and with new challenges also in their regulatory departments, obviously.
Jean?
So I certainly agree with the market making and the fact that this is a scale issue as well. This will work really, really well when we're all really scaled. The challenge, we've got to get from here to there. So that's certainly it. I agree with Meinhardt on regulation, and I would nuance that to say, I said earlier, for this to really work, it has to be well regulated, but well is the important word. The regulation has to be intelligent, has to help the regulator meet their mandate without imposing a whole bunch of unnecessary or frankly counterproductive types of regulation. And in Canada, the regulators are late to the game as relates to all of this type of stuff. And so you have either the problem of operating in a space where you don't know what the regulation will be, and so you're taking a chance and hoping that what you build is actually going to meet some rules that haven't yet been established. The US is much further ahead than we are in Canada, particularly around the business I'm in, which is stable coins. The banks understand the rules that they have to follow to bank people like us. In Canada, because there aren't rules, the banks, certainly the big banks, are afraid of us. They're afraid of what the regulator will do to them if they bank us. And so you end up having to bank with smaller banks who know that they're the only game in town and whose banking fees are, unreasonable. And so intelligent regulation, I think, is the good thing. Non-intelligent regulation would be the thing that worries me a lot. I also worry about central bank digital currencies. You might argue that if you have central bank digital currencies around the world, you may not need stable coins. I'm not sure that's the case, because I suspect they're going to take a while to build them. They talk a good game, but we're years away from having any of those. I suspect they're going to want to build in capabilities to if not eliminate anonymity, at least to limit it in some way, because that's part of their mandate. This would be a great way for them to control money laundering if they know who owns every token. So I think there's going to be an opportunity for stable coins like ours to actually still play a role. But at the limit, they could outlaw us, right? So the whole CBDC kind of evolution is something we pay close attention to. And the last thing I would raise is kind of more of a loosey-goosey risk, that every time you have an accident in the marketplace, like Cred, like Quadriga, like others, everyone gets afraid, and we all get painted with that same reputational risk. And that's why we emphasize in all of our conversations that we're adults, we're doing this the right way, we're not taking shortcuts, we're going to build the things we have to build and follow the regulation we have to follow. We're going to be transparent. But every time there's an accident, you end up having to, tell your story again, explain again why, we're not going to run away with all your money. So those are the things that keep me sort of up at night.
Great. So what fascinates me is that the both of you are from different, regions of the world. And what's beautiful about Stellar is that we've all been brought together because of the ecosystem, not only that, but the platform and how it can serve you and your customers. This is something that's very powerful in terms of just enabling people to have access to these payments, not only that, but to have access to the outside world, wherever they're from. So with that said, I'd love to conclude today's session. And there's other sessions after this, so please stay tuned. And if you like to do any networking with any of our panelists or folks from the SDF, please join one of our networking sessions or virtual lounges after this.